Absolutely. Okay.
Okay, I'm starting the recording. Hello. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Let's Talk About Our Values, Living Them Every Day. It's our monthly 11-11, which means we go live here on Zoom, Sheila and I, to talk about what it means to live our values every day. And we wanted to create an open space to talk about our values, what it means to live them in our ever-changing world, and what does that even mean, and how do you do that? Mm-hmm. So we created this open space so that people can come and ask questions and share their successes and challenges, and we can do this together because we believe it's a collaborative effort.
Oh, no doubt. Absolutely. Absolutely. Agreed. Yes. And there's always something more to be explored about values. That's the beauty of this work. It's never ending. It just broadens and it deepens. There's nuanced. And so that's the part that is really exciting about coming together every week. We've been doing this for a year and a half now. It's like almost like a year and a half. It's like, wow. Yeah. A while. We've been doing this for a while. And I know that my understanding of my own values and what it means to live them every day and to embody them changes all the time. It just deepens, and I get a bigger sense of that, and it gets more internalized, and it makes it more accessible. And so we're glad that you're on this journey with us.
Yes. And I didn't say I'm Amy Johnson.
And I'm Sheila Arthur.
Together. We do like to start off these sessions with saying how we define core values, because we think the clarity is really important, and know that it is helpful to understand what we talk about when we say core values. So core values are single words or short phrases that connect us to our authentic self, our most genuine selves. They're a bridge between that innermost self and then the outside world, how you relate in the outside world. We like to think of our core values as our inner compass that tells us where we want to go, and most importantly, how we're going to get there. It's about the how we're choosing to live our lives. And the core values are a reliable tool that we can access pretty instantly when you've gone through the process of discovering what yours truly are and when you've named them. And that's why we talk about that in these sessions. So today, Sheila and I are going to talk a little bit about the topic first. After we've said what core values are, all of it kind of flows pretty organically. Feel free to jump in if you want, and then we kind of open it up for more of a conversation. But we like to take a few minutes, 5 to 10 minutes, just to talk about the topic we chose, because we find value in discussing values, how they interact in all these different aspects of our life. So today's topic is values and how to find grounding, focus, and authentic direction when the world seems a bit tumultuous, or I like to say upside down. So, and that can be not just what's happening outside in the world, but it can be a personal world too. So I'm dealing with fraud issues right now. So that is my own personal upside down kind of feeling like I'm in the rabbit hole too. So it doesn't always have to be just the media, the outside world, the bombardment of social media and news media 24/7, all of that, but that can be a part of it. So we talked about a little bit what values are. So we talk about a set of core values. So each of us has a set, 5 to 7 core values. We have many values, but really we operate from 5 to 7 core ones. Those are the ones that are the closest to our heart. And the ones that we do in our programs, Discover Your Core Values or Create Your Inner Compass, those are the values that we help our participants identify, either in groups or one-on-one. And once you have that tool, it can really be used as a way to direct and make decisions in our life and just feel more connected to who we are and what we care about, and then be able to be out there in the world in a different way. So when the world is feeling a little bit unpredictable, I mean, listen, it's always changing, it's ever changing. So that's part of a natural rule. How do we stay in our center? How do we stay grounded? And for me, what I have learned is that when I can take my set of values and actually begin to remember them and apply them to any situation I'm going through or I'm concerned about, then I suddenly feel more grounded. So for example, I'm a big environmentalist. I care very much about the environment, and I work also in sustainable fashion. And for me, the climate crisis is something that is incredibly troubling for us as humanity. So how can my values help me there? I don't want to get burnt out doing the work there because it's an easy thing to get burnt out in. So sustainability is one of my values, but sustainability to me means a reverence for life, a reverence for the natural world. How do we live with regeneration in mind? And it's sustainability in terms of people, planet, but it's also my own health and wealth and well-being. So I use sustainability in kind of a broader sense. So when I look through my own lens of sustainability, I can find that harmony in how I take action out in the world to support changes that I want to see changes. If I go too far in one direction at the expense of myself and my family, I'm not really of service to anyone at that point because I'm burnt out and done. So my values help remind me to make choices that are both in alignment with who I am and how to be of service out there in the world. And we can find that too if we tend to, when you have 5 to 7 values, and it's 11-11 on the 11th, we like to say that.
Yay.
11. So when we can also find that we can rely on more than one value at the same time. So one of my other values is flourish. And this can help me feel grounded because if I don't go out in nature, go on a hike or spend time out in the world, I get disconnected from myself and from why I care about the earth and the climate crisis. So flourish, well, you wouldn't think that would help necessarily with the climate crisis. It's one that helps remind me of my heart, what I really deeply care about, and the joy and the love of nature and being out and the beauty all around me. So it's important to have both sides of that. It's not just the integrity of doing what's right because it's right or sustainability, but it's also the flourish in my values. So all of those things work to ground me. And they also provide focus because they each in their own way show me what is important to me and where to put my attention and how to best serve what I can do in my role as who I am. Because I personally believe we each have our own customized blueprint for how we are going to be on this earth and what we do and how we interact. And so the values help me do that along with all the other things that I do. And the authentic direction then comes from that. It's about aligning the values together to help me find the way. So, and that's why we like having 5 to 7, because then we're not overly reliant on one or two, and we can live in more harmony. So I'll just say my 7 values are, I said sustainability, integrity, collaboration, creativity, gratitude and grace, and flourish. And I'm forgetting one. Which one am I forgetting? Connection. This is my connection. And so clearly that helps me direct my way, which is the choice I'm going to make that is most connective to me, that feels most connected. And so that can really help me find my authentic direction when I'm choosing. So that's how the values can really help me feel grounded no matter what is going on out there, and help direct me to learn or do something differently than I might have otherwise. And I can rely on it in an instant. I don't have to go do something else to remember myself. That's why I find it so valuable.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Sheila,
Very well
really to
stated.
add? Yeah.
I just, the topic today is really just dealing with the tumultuous times, and that's kind of it's been a recurring theme. We talked about this a while ago during the pandemic, and there's always something that's emerging. I mean, we're in times that are calling us to be our best selves, because so much is happening in the world right now, and it has been for so long. And there's like a different consciousness is emerging, and there's some things are dying and falling away, and some things are just fighting to live and continue in the way that they have been. And it's so important for me to feel grounded and having values that keep me in the game. You're just talking about that too, Amy. There's a point in which you get overwhelmed or just inundated with so much that's happening in the world that it's like, little me, what can I do? Whenever I don't get to that place very often, but what I do is I do things to try to safeguard that from happening. And I rely upon my values to be that thing that continues to bring that spark, that continues to be, to help me to be a point of light in the world, and to go out and to make a difference, and to really live from an integrated and a place of integrity and alignment. So the values are just so powerful, and just recalibrating, just getting down to the essence of what's most important. I mean, just simple things like there's a lot going on in my life right now. There's a lot going on in my life, both personally and professionally. And just realized one of the things that is always grounding for me is walking on the beach, right? So I haven't been in the practice of doing that because I've been so busy. And I know that that one of my values is invite beauty into every moment. And I really do look to find that what's beautiful about a moment, even when it's a difficult moment or a painful moment or whatever it is, or just to find it, to have the presence of mind and the awareness to be in life and just really appreciate and enjoy it. It's like, oh my God, this being on this planet is just
Right.
outstanding. It's amazing. It's like such a gift, right? So if I can stay in that place, and even when I'm with people and I'm using some of my other values around leading with compassion or whatever else it might be, there's beauty in that. There's beauty in vulnerability. There's beauty in just what this moment has to offer, because there will never be another one like it, right? So when I'm in my head, I'm not in the place of enjoying and appreciating the moment, having that value reminds me of that. It helps to ground me and say, okay, wow, I'm having a tender moment with this person, or wow, we're really struggling with something right now, but we're having a breakthrough. Or I love the fact that I get to connect this way with people that I care about. And these are things that are just like, it's beyond, it just renews me in just a really powerful way. So the values can help me to stay out of that space of feeling like, wow, there's nothing that I can do, because everything that I do, the way that I choose to be in the world, has an impact that's larger than I can ever imagine. And it always is, right? And so as I continue to do that work and to do the healing work that I need to do, that I know that I'm being a force for change and a force for good and for making a difference. And that keeps me from like reflecting on, oh my God, the sky is falling, which sometimes it is. But I lift it up a little bit and like keep moving, because there's still so much that I can contribute, right? And I want to stay in a place of contribution and being a vehicle of change. And so anchoring into my values really helps me with that.
Absolutely. And so beautifully put. I love the invite beauty in every moment, because it really does shift our attitudes
Really does.
in the moments of crisis. And what you spoke about so succinctly is about that bridge, why the values are the bridge between kind of our highest, most soulful, truest, genuine self, our authentic selves, and then how we interact with the world. And we need help with that sometimes, because I think one of the things about the world being kind of so tumultuous and overwhelming is that it's intentionally that way to help keep us a little distracted from ourselves. So this work is really, I think it's, I don't want to say quite rebellious, but it's honoring the self in a way that is powerful.
It is. It is. That's very well stated, Amy. It really is honoring self, and being in that place of honoring self. When you're feeling that way about yourself, it's easy to feel that way about other people and feel that way about life. It's like you mentioned sustainability, and underpinning sustainability for you is reverence for life. Well, my value is reverence for life, the way that I view it. And it's the same thing. It's just a slightly different focus, but it's exactly the same. It's just really having that sense of that this is sacred and beautiful, and that life is, and that there are ways that I can protect that. I could be a steward of that. I could be somebody that is contributing to making the world a better place, and recognizing all of the diversity and recognizing all of how life unfolds. And so when I'm in that place of just like awe and just curiosity and wonder and gratitude, which are all the things that are about having reverence for life, I approach everybody and I approach every situation and I approach life itself very differently. And that's a place that just is a place I like to live. I like to live there and reside there.
And I know from our own conversations and myself, we're not always there. I'm not always in harmony with my values. I mean, the whole point of this is that we're not, and that it is the shift back to calibration. It is the act of remembering,
yes,
of heading back to that when we are in the overwhelm, in the frustration, in the powerlessness, or wanting to control things we cannot control, which I find a little too much.
It's remembering the values help you to remember. Yeah, I love that. They really do. They help you to remember.
They help remember, and it remembers who we are of ourselves. And that's so important, because I do think there is a pull to have us forget, because when we forget, it's easier to
go along with or
buy, and that doesn't mean all buying is bad. It just means we're not as present and don't necessarily do what's in our own best interest as individuals, as families, as communities, as people.
Yes.
To that point.
Absolutely.
So Andrea, we don't want to put you on the spot because we know you're here and we appreciate you being here. But if you wanted to say something, we invite you to unmute and ask a question or type something in the chat, or we'll just keep having our conversation, but acknowledge you being here and thank you for listening if that's comfortable to you today. So thank you. And so what else do we want to say about this? There's so much to bring into the calling in our best selves, is I think what you said earlier.
Right. Yeah. And that's the thing that's really up for me now too. I mean, it always is. I was in a meeting earlier, and I was sharing the place where I am right now. And another one of my values is to bring forth healing. So as my work as a transformational coach, and the work that I do is really around healing. It's around healing that sense of separation, that false sense that we believe that we're separate, and that lack of connection, and restoring that connection in so many ways, and alignment, this wholeness. And that can be in a very physical form, but it's also in a lot of other ways too, right? And so I was just sharing, because it's like, I really did not want to show up to the meeting. I was like, oh my God, I'm not feeling it today, but I know that I need to go, right? I need to go because I always get something out of it. So I went, and I just decided to just share where I was, that I'm just processing a lot right now. It's good stuff, because I know on the other side of this, I will feel lighter. I will feel that a part of me has been healed, and I'm just actually on a healing journey, right? Just old stuff, things that hold me back, right?
Right.
And just bring forth healing. But that it was in talking about being in a place, I think it's important for me to embody what it is that I value. And I value that kind of, another one of my values is share your authentic presence. So it's like, okay, so how am I showing up today? I need to share and talk about that. And I did. And I had a lot of people talking about, they just really appreciated the vulnerability. And it strikes me in a way because it's something so simple. It's simple, but not easy, right? Simple to do that, but not easy because we have so many things at stake. And this is the part around why that sense of separation, that we don't get to be ourselves all the time,
Right.
in front of people. And we may put on a false self, or not a false self, but it's like the best self. It's like, whatever. It's like, I'm not going to share this part or to do this, but I'm going to hold this part back. Right. And if everybody's doing that, there's no opportunity for really in community and connection to be seen and to like let some of that stuff go, right? Which makes the world a better place, in my opinion, to be able to do that. So I was just struck about the whole point around the vulnerability piece and how it's like, wow, when we live our values, it's really around inviting in a different aspect of being human. It's about our humanity, right? And I'm always amazed at how something as simple as being human can be so complex and so difficult for people to express. It's like, this is what we're here. This is who we are. It's like, why is it so hard, right? To just like friggin' like show up, we feel like there's so much at stake sometimes to just be ourselves, and when we're ourselves and our best selves, and we're just bringing forth that part of us that is here, like you said, we all have our mission. We're all here for a purpose, right? We all have a mission, whatever our mission is, to just do that thing. It's like, if you just, I like to think about if everybody were just doing that, what a difference it would make in the world. And I think that's part of what drew us together in terms of doing this work. It's like when you are connected with your values, you become a different human being. You express differently,
Right.
and you invite more of your humanity, the things that are most essential and important and special about your humanity, to show up and to let them show up,
Right.
and to live from them. And it's like, that's so powerful and that's so transformative. And it's like, we need more of that.
We do. Yeah. Which is why we like to say, the living our values every day is a radical act of love.
Oh my goodness, it is.
Because it's connecting us to our humanity. It is connecting us to what matters most to us and how to be more of ourselves in a world that, I know for me as a child, what you were talking about, right? I was either shamed or, was taught to people please rather than really be honest about who I am and what I am. So this work is a nice antidote to that, because I don't lose myself as quickly. It's really an anchor for myself in those situations.
Right. Oh, I see. Andrea has a question for us. How do we determine what our values are? Okay. You want to answer that one, Amy? How do we determine what our values are?
So thank you, Andrea. That's a wonderful question, and it's an important question. And we have a process that we use, that we could take people through to help determine their values. And it's an inside out process. It's an inquiry-based process, which basically means it comes from asking questions. And that's one way to do it. Prior to that, a way to start beginning to recognize what your values might be. And we welcome, we'll tell you about when we do our next workshop. We'll probably do one in the fall again, probably, right, Sheila? Something August or the fall. So stay in touch for sure. But before even going through that step, our emotions are a pathway to our values. They're a way for us to begin to identify what our values are. So begin to notice when you feel joy and happiness, exuberance, those feelings that are really heightened and elevated. And notice if it's you're on a hike with a friend and you're enjoying nature, or maybe I need to go on a hike. I keep talking about hiking. I haven't been on a hike in a couple of weeks. I better go soon. So, or is it the connection you're feeling with your friend, or the beauty of the wildflowers and the lavender that you smell, or is it the physical work? So of being on the hike and getting a good sweat. So it's important to begin to identify the things about it that you love, the aspects of it. At the same time, think about a moment where you're feeling really satisfied and accomplished. Perhaps it was something you were afraid to do that you did, or you completed a work project, or won an award, or, I mean, I'm not a big award person, but something that you feel good about. That is what is most important, feel satisfied with. And what was it about that felt so satisfying for you to complete and to do?
Mm-hmm.
And, and then it's the moments of disconnection as well. Gosh, I'm just feeling off right now. Something is not right. What could that something be? I talk about shopping because that's been it for me. I remember years ago, I would be in the line at Target and have a cart full of things that I needed but did not need. And I just felt such a disconnection. But I was searching to create a home and kind of going about it in a different way than maybe would have been the most helpful. I was also doing other things, but I could see that there was a disconnection for myself. And so it's kind of taking those moments, pausing to be able to acknowledge that within ourselves. And there's no shoulds, musts, have tos, good or bads in this work. It's more about noticing. And that's why we call it inquiry-based, because it's really asking a question and then being able to identify that. So then for me, I could say, oh, sustainability is so important to me that buying things I don't need is painful to me because it's out of alignment with that.
Yeah, there's just something about it that just doesn't feel right for you, and it's like and it's like when you just connect to that sense of discomfort or that dissonance or whatever it is, however big or small, it's a clue. It's just a clue.
It's a clue that something is up, right? Yeah. And so when we start noticing those things, or where we eat, because we're making decisions based on our values all the time. That's the thing. We're doing it where what we eat, how we eat, where we're eating, what we're wearing, how we're spending our time and resources. So those decisions are made. We're making decisions based on our values, whether we're aware of it or not. They're often done unconsciously, habitually, impulsively, distractedly, all the time. I still do too. It's not that I don't do that now, but I am much more aware than I used to be. And when we name and get clear about our values, it turns kind of automatic to present. It goes from unconscious to conscious.
Right.
So we have just a little more beat. And so the process of beginning to become aware of that is where the values lie, and they can be helpful. And once we start realizing we're doing it anyway, I think there's a big common thing: vote with your dollars, right? So that's kind of showing where we spend our time, money, resources is what we value, and just making sure that's actually in alignment with what we do.
Right. Because sometimes we might value things in the short term that really don't serve us in the long term, or we may have gotten into the habit of doing things in a certain way, like you said, without consciousness. Just because that's how our family did them, or out of expediency, or it made sense at one point, but it doesn't anymore, right? So anytime there's that little tiny bit of disconnect, it's like, hi, I'm not having fun doing this anymore, or this doesn't have the same pull for me that it did before, but here I am doing it. Or you find yourself in conflict with somebody maybe, or you losing your patience or your temper or whatever else it is, or being frustrated. Those are all cues. Those are all just like little subtle cues and clues about how you can just identify what is really important to you. If connection is important and you find yourself not in connection, then you know, oh, I need to do a better job of that, because when I do, I feel so much better. I feel so much
Right.
lighter. I feel so much more peaceful. I'm not like fighting against something, right?
Right. And I have collaborations, one of my values. So I can find, oh, am I coming from a place, a collaborative place, or am I coming from a place of more competitiveness maybe, or am I, fear of not measuring up rather than a true
Mhm.
collaboration, which is ideas are going to be free flowing and come and go, and maybe they're off or right. So can I drill down into more, this is in a work situation, collaboratively, but it could also be as a parent, as I parent I have two teenagers. So, parenting them is a collaborative. Me with them, I'm talking about. Because I set the rules and, they like to push them. So that's part of them growing up, and it's an important part of it. So it becomes even more important. And the values, values work for that age group is also really important, because they are operating from their values as well, and having them get a little bit clearer about what they want, whether they're 17, in their 20s, out of college, or someone is in their 30s wanting to start a family, or in midlife, empty nesters, all the way up to retired, post-retired, all up throughout our life. There comes a point where we can calibrate with our values. Will just add so much more to the next phase of what we want to do.
Yeah.
And get that clarity. And that's where that authentic direction comes into, when we have those moments of what's next feeling.
Yeah. And so I was just thinking about that, because I was like, yeah, there's an underpinning. There's like certain values that have like been with me forever, but I think that the ones that I'm focusing on and aware of have definitely shifted over the years, from the time that I was in my 20s and 30s. I mean, very clearly. There's just been a deepening of those, no doubt. So it is important work to revisit periodically, as your life situation changes. It doesn't mean that you abandon the other ones, but it's like the way that you express them might be different, or just understanding that one is kind of rising up and has more meaning for you, and more there's more of a drive to like express that value than before at other points in your life. And that's all good. It's all okay.
And because I think there's, integrity is one of my values. When that gets to self-righteousness, that is no longer a value, that's an extreme. And not helpful to me or anyone around me. So I can recognize that as being kind of an extreme over, like that value might be just not so that it's you kind of too much integrity, but it's a little bit on steroids. Like it just needs to be softened with creativity or flourish or connection, because it's not integrity at the expense of any of those. And sometimes, people to ask, what happens when your values that conflict? I see it much more as a harmony, where one, steps into kind of the front line and the other one in the back, so it's like they blend together in a different way. So they take I'm not in musicals, but there's different.
Oh yeah. I'm not either. So I can't, I'm not.
I'll have to get
I love music, but I can't. Yeah. Don't put me down. Yes, but you're right. There is a harmony. And that kind of speaks to that whole piece around, we tend to want to separate things out to understand them, and then we forget that we've separated them out. It's like people always will say, is it this or is it that? And I always say it's both and. It's more likely to be both and. So there's a melding, there is an integration. There is like, okay, so this one is here and this one is like lesser, and then this one is elevated, and depending upon the situation. And it doesn't mean that they're in conflict. It just means which one is the one that is leading and is the priority and is where the energy is. Like the energy is on value, expressing this value over this one.
For that moment too, right?
In that moment,
or that relationship, and once we have the set, then it's the set of values is what I like to call it, the set of core values actually. Then it becomes, I call it the advisory board. It's really something you can rely on and look. And so you don't, if integrity is ruling the board for too long, it doesn't mean it has to leave the board, just it can quiet down for a little bit and allow flourish to have some fun and allow connection to build the relationships with integrity there. It's not like it's going to go away, but it'll inform in a different way.
Yes, 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 yes.
Because it's not about making our life small or perfect or live in the land of shoulds, where we're trying to get it right all the time. That is not what this is about. It's about living our truest and fullest self out in a world that is a little bit tumultuous, upside down, overwhelming on the personal and the collective and the global, for sure. And there's a lot happening and a lot to do. And we get bombarded with a lot of information too. So the values also help us stay true to ourselves in those moments. So we use that lens when we're getting information, whether it's an article that's being sent or something being posted or a news headline or all this stuff coming, an ad even coming at us. Where do we fit into that? How do we look at this from our lens? And so the values help us not be as, I don't want to say taken advantage of, but kind of misled, because we know ourselves in a deeper way than before. So we're a little, we can recognize when something's not quite right out there. And we can always, it doesn't mean don't check things out, but it does mean that there's another way to see it than the way that's being presented to us by whomever it is.
Yes, 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 absolutely. Yeah. I just think about that delicate dance that all the time of how much information I take in about what's happening in the world, how much my attention goes there and how much my attention returns to where I can make a difference or where I can have impact. Because it's always about the energy for me. It's like, how much energy can I expend? What is it that I can do? What's available to me? What's mine to do? How I can focus on something in a way that might be looking at it from a different vantage point or whatever else it might be, right? Just to be aware of what's happening, to do what I can do, and to just be aligned with what it is what for me are my values. So that I can just keep taking that out into the world, just keep taking it out into the world. And for me, leading with compassion is one of those things. That never ends. I mean, my capacity and my willingness to be able to see, and it's not for everybody, because sometimes the way that I can look at something is I can see the horror of what happened and I can see the trauma behind that. And I can hold that space for both of those things and just recognize it, not excusing it or making it okay, but just saying, oh my goodness, this is what happens to us as humans when we're so disconnected from ourselves and we're just so disconnected from each other. This is the horror of what happens when we don't feel love and loved. And so that point of compassion helps me to then know that literally, like, the world isn't coming to an end. This has always been the case. It may always be. We're elevating our consciousness, but we're going to see evidence of people's suffering and their inhumanity toward each other because of some deficit that exists inside of them. And until we can heal that, it's going to keep showing up. Yeah, we'll keep seeing it, and it's horrible. And there's so much beauty and there's so much good and there's so many people who are just doing amazing, amazing things on this planet. So it's like, where do I put my attention? On the things that the media is telling me to place my attention on, which is if it bleeds, it leads, that sort of thing. Or am I also seeing the bigger picture of what's happening here? And the gift and the beauty of humanity itself and how people are rising up and just doing amazing things to make a difference in the world and make this world a better place. And so I just choose to often look at that part of it, to see what's happening and to recognize and say, okay, this is additional evidence, and to see something bigger.
Right. And it's the dialectical, right? It's the both.
Yes, and
not
that keeps me
turning,
sane.
I mean, I believe we don't turn away from what's happening. And I'm not
Mhm.
okay you saying that at all. But it's not letting it deplete us to a point where we can't see the good and
Right,
see only the lack, the negative, what's not working. And because we have to focus on the solutions. We have to focus, and getting the values help us connect to ourselves, which gives us the tools and the resonance to be able to connect with others in whatever
right,
our demonstration is out in the world.
right.
Anyway.
And I'm still empowered. There's a piece of empowerment. I don't lose my power. When I lose my power, it's not available to me. I am not a force. I'm not helping. I'm not contributing. And
And
for
that's
me, it's about continuing to contribute.
right.
So it's how do I keep my power and contribute and be aware and, hold the space or do what the things that I can do to shift whatever's happening. Like
Right.
all of those is a both and again. It's all
Yeah.
of that together.
And
Right.
yeah, and I think you say that so well. And I just recently launched the Core Values High School Edition, because that age group is so aware of all the problems, and I see it firsthand as a mother of two teens, and it's just everywhere as they've grown up with so much stuff happening, and that the values work for them gives them that balance. Because right now there isn't a lot of, even in the most progressive schools, there isn't that necessarily core inner work, the
Mhm.
self-reflection that you've taken time to really know and own yourself. So it's the kids, when I've worked through them with them, have been so hungry for it, because they get to see themselves in a way they hadn't before, and that helps them contextualize what's happening out in the world. And when the program was piloted back east with a class of about 100 juniors, 17-year-olds in high school, and like the number one value was around health, mental health, physical health, and that was so important and poignant to recognize that these kids saw that. And also there was compassion and connection and other words that seem to resonate with them in a way that they then can have those tools as they go forth into the world and grow up out there. And once you name it, Andrea, back to your question, right? So once you name them, the first part is an hour and a half, 2-hour workshop, and then you spend a little bit of time honing it, and then it's calibrating it, right? You have kind of a basic set. Sometimes we have more, like 10, and sometimes we have less, and we need to find other ones. And there's all these different ways that we give exercises to do that. And the calibration then is going kind of another level deeper, where you really begin to identify what the values are, where they came from, how you describe them for yourself. Because a lot of times we can have a similar word or phrase to somebody else, but what it means to us is different. And so we begin to really personalize it in this work and in the process. So it's a powerful, oh, hey, Cherise. It's a powerful process to walk through and see get to know ourselves. Again, whether you're 17 or 71, it's a powerful way to do exactly what Sheila said, which is be able to take in what's happening around us and stay true to ourselves at the same time.
Right. Yeah. And there's I love that this work is happening for young people in particular.
Yeah.
Because it's like, when I was speaking about the empowerment part of it, it's like, because of that sense, because of being so attuned to what's going on, right? And seeing it from a different vantage point, it's like everybody has their own vantage point. And I was liken it to the spiral staircase, where you only know what you know, right? And the 17-year-old has their own knowing and their own perspective. That is their unique perspective, different from mine, being in my 60s, right? It's a different perspective, but still a valid perspective. So that sense of still having hope, the sense of being able to still feel hope when you see so many things happen. I've had the benefit of being able to see things shift over time and to know what that looks like and the amount of time that it takes. Someone who's 17 doesn't see it from that perspective, but when they are in their values and understand what is most important to them, they still have the opportunity to contribute, to feel like they have, they have not only a stake, but that they can make a difference. That there's something that I can do as a human being that is really going to turn this thing around, right? That I get to be an active participant. And it's like their energy is just so amazing, that it's wonderful to be able to harness it and to be able to say, oh, this is what is most important to me. So I'm going to study, this, I'm going to do these things. I'm going to go out. This is what I want to contribute. This is how I want to show up in the world. This is what I want to pay attention to and what I don't want to pay attention to. I mean, all those things are just huge to get a handle on, because the level of information input that they're exposed to is just far exceeds anything that that we ever experienced growing up. And to just to shift through all of that and to still be clear and grounded in the midst of all of that really takes something like anchoring into values to be able to do.
Right. And not get caught in the trend only.
Not get caught up. Yes.
On trend.
Not get caught.
Yeah, which, so, and do it with fun, not make it so heavy. Hi, Sharice. I want to say hi.
Hey, Sharice.
Hi. I'm so sorry for being late. I've just had I had a wonderful morning with my mom, but I've had a last couple of terrible days and I didn't expect to be off today. So I just was checking my emails and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm missing it.
We're so glad you're here. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter when you show up. It's just this is such a beautiful opportunity to, again, reconnect, recalibrate, just to pay attention to what we value and to make that commitment again to live from that place of knowing what they are and then honoring them and making it a part of how you make daily decisions. And that's what this is all about.
Absolutely. Any questions, Sharice, or anything on your mind you want to share? We still have 10 minutes.
No, I was just coming to the realization that I'm working too hard. But the thing is that I'm a little torn because I love what I do. I love the teaching aspect of it, but I also like the hands-on part of being in surgery. So I made an executive decision that I was going to give up the second job teaching by the end of the year and just concentrate on my job in the hospital. And I'm thinking I'm okay with that now. I'm really, because I made that decision, it's okay for me to say bye-bye.
Right.
More time for me.
Yeah. We were talking about that in terms of the values. So I'm so appreciate you sharing that, because it is a dance a bit. And we talk about the harmony where I'm sure you have one of your values aligns with your work, the teaching and even the surgery. I don't know your set of the values, but then there's probably one that needs a little bit of help to come up, which is either in the fun or the self-care or something else that's not being realized as much in your life right now because you're, working too much, as you said.
Yeah. I'm having a total, as we talked about it earlier, a total mind shift of how things, how I'm looking at things, and not that I don't mind working this much, because I am a workaholic. I always thought I was a workaholic, but now I'm ready to manage my time a little bit more so I can have some more me time in there.
Right. And that's why we like having, for the values, 5 to 7 values, right? Because usually I'm a recovering workaholic myself, right? So usually there's 5, 1 or 2, even of service. We've had other people on here too, where they're so committed to service that they have not given themselves the time to live in as much as they would like in other areas, right? To flourish, to be in joy, to experience. I know you like to travel, right? So like being able to give yourselves those things that fill out your life in this way, that our values can help point us to what is missing. Because we were talking about like overusing some of our values, like they're too big in a way, so they out of balance to some of the other ones. And those of us who are in service work type, like teaching or in the medical world, or therapists, things like that, coaches. I call myself an integrator, so it's a little bit my own world. So wherever we are, we're putting out there in the world, we can tend to be heavier on that because it's so important to us and there's so much to do. And our values can point the way to what it is else that could use a little, I don't know what the word would be, like love, leave more love,
Right. Yeah. And yes, Sharice, I'm looking at you right now and, just knowing a little bit about you from before, there's like a couple of things that are just coming up for me that if you don't mind my sharing with you in this context. I was just seeing a connection and check out whether this is true for you. So I think that one of your values, either stated or unstated, is around adventure. The other one is around novelty, and the other is around just this, it's around growth and having this, it's around just having an impact and having growth. And so it's like what you've been doing as a teacher in that capacity may have been serving you very well in terms of what the values are, but now it's like you may need to express it differently. Like the value may be the same, but the expression is different, right? Which gives you more time to like get fed by the other parts of you that like she said, the travel and the novelty and the adventure and all those other things that may not be happening for you. And then whenever we're not living enough of them, we do start to feel that sense of like, like not mundane things, but that overwhelm or just like burnout or whatever else, because there's not enough alignment and there's not enough to draw upon, like all the different values that are there for you to draw upon and say, okay, now this one now needs to take center stage. Like these two, I want to take center stage right now because I noticed that they're not, and I'm feeling it.
Work in progress.
You said what? I say that again?
Oh, yeah.
It's a work in progress.
Oh my God, no
For
doubt.
all of us, right?
That's exactly what we were talking about. It totally is.
And what's fun, what I think is fun about it is our values can be that cue as well. So when I was feeling kind of overwhelmed with responsibility and work and life and parenting and single parenting and all of that, I turned to my value of flourish last year. And so I decided to have the summer of fun. Now that could look different for everybody, but like for me, fun, I had to define very specifically. It was at least like a minute a day of something that wasn't productive. So that's how I defined fun, right? It was like, I didn't like have to go to Vegas and have like the time of my life or go to, out dancing. I mean, that's all good if I wanted to do that. But can I just incrementally invite more fun into my day every day? And it put a smile on my face. So I ended up doing things like dancing while I walked the dogs, putting on my favorite music and literally looking foolish, walking down the street, like dancing to Earth, Wind and Fire. Okay, that's fun for me. Maybe I look a little weird, but Flourish gave me the key that it was fun that I needed to put a smile on my face. right? That I didn't have to make a huge statement about it. I could do it. I picked up a beach ball and played with the dogs in the backyard. Or I just put music on again and danced around. And so I drank out of a funny glass that was pretty, you know, like it was just whatever I could do that would make me smile. That wasn't something I would normally do, qualified as fun. And as long as it wasn't productive, because I like productive, you know?
Yeah. That's a great tool. That's a great strategy,
Yeah.
especially for somebody who like tends toward a lot of work and like real
Yeah.
focus, like let me make something happen here, right?
Yeah, because I don't want to
remember that other part, invite that other part in.
Yeah, and I don't want to make fun another thing I had to check off a list.
Right, exactly.
So I was like, okay, a minute. Usually it lasted a little longer, but like, okay, if I just, sometimes I didn't, sometimes I would just laugh for a minute, you know, like literally crack myself up. So it was whatever I could do to invite that in, but Flourish gave me the key. That was the one that my value of Flourish gave me the key that was what I needed, and gave me the idea to do the summer of fun. So, you know,
that's great. That's great.
Yeah. The adventure could be read an adventure novel for fun, right? Like,
oh my goodness.
You know, it doesn't have to mean, you could mean going on a safari or going somewhere else if you wanted to, traveling to some place you hadn't ever been.
Yeah.
But it could be start with something right away.
Right. I love that.
That can invite that value to be more alive in your life.
Mm-hmm. Right. And make it like a game. How many ways can I do this thing, right? How many ways can I incorporate adventure into my life on how many levels, right? And it just snowballs. It's kind of exciting to think about. Oh, we are just at the end of our time together today. Yay. Another 11/11 in the books. Love it. So just Andrea, so grateful that you joined us today, and thank you for your thoughtful question about you know, how you discover what your values are. I hopefully you got some good input, and we will be offering another workshop, so hopefully you'll stay connected and join us for the next workshop, because it's such a powerful way to just in a short period of time drill down and find out what those values are, and then refine them and own them and live from them. And it just makes all the difference in the world.
Yeah, absolutely. Any final questions? Feel free to put it in the chat. Charisse, anything? We love seeing you.
Yes.
And we do this every month on the 11th at 11 a.m. So you can put it in your calendar. And it's 11 a.m. PST. We've had a couple people get confused with that. So it's 11 California time.
Yes.
And we call it our 11/11. And this is how it goes. So please come back and join us. We'll be here on August 11th.
Exactly. We will indeed. Yes.
Right.
Yeah, God willing.
Have a wonderful week.
Oh, thank you. You
Love
too.
seeing you.
Okay, love seeing you guys too.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye-bye.